Again and again and again. The war between light and darkness. Let's go, Belle. The two greatest emperors ended up killing one another. It was to be expected that the 500-year war would end with the death of both. Yet, there were further horrific events which threatened to destroy the world. The resurrection of the evil gods remains a terrifying memory for us all. Yes, I remember there was a jet black dragon.
Destruction, born of darkness.
Black Queen, she who guides the dead.
The time of awakening is near.
Answer my calling, evil goddess Cardice! Return to the living, evil goddess!
The goddess has risen. No one can stop her now.
If this is so, then the only thing to do is to destroy the goddess by the strongest man known to me. Nurse, do you agree?
Hello, my name is Random Gamer Riven, and this is part 2 of Randomised Gaming's look at Record of Lodoss War on the Sega Dreamcast. So in the original part I didn't speak in the slightest, but as this one covers some more sort of management elements, I thought I'd provide a bit of audio commentary. The other factor is it gives me a chance to explain some of the actual lore behind Lodoss, because what many people don't realise is this was actually based on the Japanese sort of novelization of Dungeons and Dragons games, and later turned into an original video animation, and then a whole series of manga, you name it. There's Record of Lodoss content about it. Now, surprisingly, this is one of those sort of anime mangas that never really took on in the West, and that it's a shame to see why. I think because it's actually a really good Dungeons and Dragons clone. So this bit here is actually one of the little base mechanics where you can get your little goblin followers to do one of 3 things. So you can tell them all to drop dead, which is not very helpful. But this is the most poignant one, which is look for treasure. You can ask them to help you as well, although I've never had them ever actually venture out with me. I think they can do. And basically they then you get a little roll call and then they drop an item if they found it. Sometimes you get 1 or 2 items. It depends how well the goblins do. I think there's basically a random luck element here. As you can see there, I've got a shield which I can refine and break down for some minerals. Yeah, I think there's like a 5-minute cooldown on that, so you can do it sort of every 5 minutes. You can't do it straight away if you talk to him again. If you talk to him sort of in 5-10 minutes time, you'll be able to summon your goblin followers. So that's actually quite a good way of actually, if you want to get items, just keep running that over the course of an hour and you will get some bonus gear, etc. So the backstory for this is that you're actually playing as Beld, originally one of the villains in the original Lodoss. Although he's supposed to have been a historical hero, he was corrupted in the battle where they saved Lodoss ages back, and then he became a bit of a villain, and War has now resurrected him in the game, and now he's a hero again, although ultimately you can decide his fate depending on your actions during the game. So this is Anvar, he's a blacksmith, and he's one of the reasons I thought I'd actually comment, because there's quite an interesting and in-depth ruin system in how you can enhance gear in this. And basically in Record of Lodoss War you can enhance it with a ton of ruins that basically improve the strength, and you can continue to enhance weapons as long as you have the spare mithril on you. And not only can you add ruins, there's sort of permanent ruins, there's magical ruins that are like one time only, but you can swap them over. And then you also have the ability to transform your sword. So if you've upgraded a weapon and you want it to go from a single hand sword to a double-handed sword, you can do that. So yeah, we've got to quickly go to the dungeon according to Anvar as he's put some equipment down there. You'll notice there's some bonus fights in the dungeon. You can fight some bonus monsters. I'll fight one of them at the very end of this video. But basically there's 3 bonus fights you can do to help out the Goblin Fortress. And at the minute when you first start off, you can just about beat the first one without too much trouble. The second one is virtually impossible unless you want to do a really, really protracted battle. As you can see there, got some new gear from Anvar. And I'm just going to equip it. Now, one of the key factors with Record of Lodoss War is that because many people aren't aware of all the anime and the lore that surrounded it in the original D&D novelization, then you actually miss out on a huge number of events. So if you've seen the original animation, you will actually know that Beld was basically one of the primary villains in it. You'll also know who Wart is. You'll also know that the island of Marmo is basically Beld's original home kingdom, and hence the reason it's always seen as dark and cloudy, because the island is actually dark and cloudy, and explains the black dragon Narcissus. Incidentally, I should have included that intro you saw at the start of this video in our first video, but I didn't because I wasn't actually aware there was a second intro. But I included it this time because that gives you the full sort of breakdown. And of course, you would in the intro you would have seen Wagner, and you saw Wagner and Carla, again 2 key characters from the original animated series. But again, if you hadn't seen that, then very much you would just think, oh, these are the villains of this game. Indeed, when I first played it, I'd never actually I'd never watched the video. I have the original Lodoss video series. I have now watched it, and it completely changes your understanding of the game and the world around the game. It was actually very interesting to actually see the TV series before playing it. There's also a manga, although I didn't find the manga to be particularly very good. So basically what we're doing here is we're adding ruins to armour and the weapons, and basically they increase. You can, at the start you only have like 1 or 2 ruins. Of course, over the course of the game you'll find hundreds of them dotted around everywhere, and they increase how much durability, strength, you name it, they add it to it. So at the start it's very much you're basically having to follow the tutorials. I should say the first couple of enhancements are actually tutorial driven, but once you begin to get a feel for it, you can tweak it yourself as you go along and decide what weapons you want to tweak. It's a good idea to actually have a play with the different weapons before you decide which ones you're going to transform, refine, duplicate or alter. So basically that's, I've quickly enhanced my armour. I'm actually going to do a bit more sword enhancing in a minute and make it quite a heavy buff, because one thing you'll discover exploring the world is actually this big world map in Record of Lodoss War really is, I think it's on par roughly with Diablo 2 actually, because there is a lot of travelling. Yes, there's quick warps. Those ruins at the sort of south of the base are actually a set of quick warps you see on the ground, but you can't utilise them until you've been to the location. And as you see there, Anvar has given us a selection of ruins to automatically add. So basically it's giving me about 5 or 6 damage up to, etc. So basically I can then add those ruins to my weapons or my armour. I should say certain ruins are for armour only, other ones are for weapons only. He'll even make you a really powerful sword if you've got 10,000 mithril spare, but at the minute I don't have 10,000 mithril. And mithrils, it's not hard to come by, but it's not as common as you'd like, and basically because you're always using it to enhance your existing weapons, because a lot of people basically at the start of the game, War gives you one of the weapons called Doomblade, and you can basically just enhance that. You can actually enhance any weapon, but because he gives you like a name one called Doomblade, a lot of people just enhance that one. And in fact you only actually need one weapon, because you can refine, basically break down existing gear, and as soon as you refine it, Anvar can then reforge that weapon or armour anyway. So basically you just have him break down the weapon, and then he can make it on the spot as and when you need it again. See their attack. But just looking at stats of these, so at the start it's very much a case of which item's better from the get-go, but as things go on it becomes much more choosing your base sort of items and equipment. So HP up 1, HP up 3. As you can see there is a slight cost and space duration with using some of the different ruins, and certainly you have to balance it out, because you can sometimes occasionally only use up a set. You can only use, basically each weapon has a set number of slots. You'll see this one has like 4 block slots, so it's only 6, so you have to be careful. You can use a 5 slot item, but then you'll mean you'll have a 1 slot unused, and at the minute we don't have any 1 slot ruins. I can't remember if there was any 1 slot with ruins. I think the lowest was 2 perhaps. And ironically you can actually get enhanced versions of some of the earlier engraves as well that actually reduce the size anyway. As we mentioned, some will automatically replace others, so you can actually get enhanced versions. There's a whole ton of ruins you can discover on the island, but it's a bigger island to explore.
What type of weapon shall I forge? Yeah.
One thing I've said is you won't be familiar with the characters if you haven't seen the original sort of anime or read the story. So it's quite interesting that when I originally played this, I had no idea back in the late 90s, I think it's or early 2000s. No, I think it's early 2000s I picked this up. Is that initially you didn't know which characters were doing what. But now that I've played it and seen it, you recognise characters instantly. It also means you can spot certain characters when they first appear, thinking, oh, that's so-and-so from the anime, etc. So you can see here, yes, I'm going to have another rally of the troops and another meeting, and we'll go for some more item searching. Here we are, goblins. What does it spell? Goblins. You heard the boss, spread out, look for treasure. Just be a second, boss. Right, here goes. Alright, goblins reporting. And we've got some mithril. So Anvar, I believe, is not a character. The blacksmith is not a character from the original TV series. Well, he's not a character from the original TV series. He may appear in one of the later mangas or something. Beld, who your player character is, although you can rename him, and Great Wise Wizard War are both characters from the original TV series. So again, we've got to search for Parn, who's like the main hero of the series. So be sure to use your recall spell often. Okay, now loading. So this is actually the world map section, and this is a huge area you now have to span. There's quite a big map as well. So here we go, as we're running out. I'm just going to show you the map quickly. And you can see we need to traverse to the Dark Forest and the Dark Elves village. However, before we can do that, we actually have to traverse this huge beholden land. So this is not a small game like Diablo. This is a big game. So there's another ancient inscription, and that's parrying +1. You will find their inscriptions hidden away everywhere. There's lots of them hidden away in secret areas. So as with any sort of classic Baldur's Gate or even Diablo style RPG, you've really got to explore every nook and cranny. I must admit, despite the fact this was Japanese developed, it does play very much like a Western sort of Diablo clone. I mean, it is clearly a clone on Diablo, but it's very, very got its own. It feels very much more like it was developed by Westerners. There's not that many what you'd call Japanese traits in this. There aren't sort of big-eyed, cute-looking characters and things like that. It's very much far more dark and sort of Japanese style game, and it actually is far more adult in many ways of how it handles the story. So basically this time it's going to be running through the fields, chopping up the various enemies, and I've got to navigate. Basically you've got to follow the path at this point. Let's do it like Great Wise Wizard War says, basically follow the path and just chop stuff as you go along. Now of course you do get level ups like in Diablo as you hack and slash your way through. What's interesting is this game came out literally the same week in Japan as Diablo 2 did in the West, and when you compare this to Diablo 2, this graphically is leaps and bounds above Diablo 2, and as is it is control wise, it's far smoother. Whereas Diablo 2 was mouse pointer, this is completely free controlling, and it does feel more fluid. It's far easier to dodge enemy attacks. You do have that sort of strategy that you don't necessarily have in Diablo 2, whereas Diablo 2 you just guide and click, and this you have complete real-time control. And it's a big shame that this game didn't quite get the credit it deserved. I think partly because Lodoss, this sort of series and the actual lore behind it is so poorly known in the West. And the other fact was this game was quite badly advertised. I mean, this should have been advertised as a Diablo beta, and yet it wasn't. In fact, had Blizzard bought the rights to this game, just renamed it Diablo Dreamcast and then sold it as such, maybe just renamed the characters, yes, it would have been a bit of a corruption of the whole story, but it would have sold so much better. So West Cave Nasa. Nasa is the black dragon that we saw earlier, and he's quite a prominent character in the original TV series. And he's actually he's Beld's dragon. Or the Dark Islands dragon. Now, I think this is a continuation of the TV series. There are some digresses because the TV series is in Lodoss sort of have punch-ups over where they are between them over the lore. Basically, they keep changing and retconning events, and you end up thinking, well, actually, I'm just going to take one adaptation. I think this is supposed to be set after both the big event TV series. I might be wrong, because basically at the start they imply Beld's been dead for a long time. Leela is, of course, no longer controlled by Carla. In case you're wondering, the original Carla, originally the witch woman you saw in the two intros in the start of this volume and the start of our previous part 1, the witch woman is actually Carla. She originally controlled Leela, and she's subsequently been freed. You've slain, I assume Etho, I just pronounced his name, is currently king of Farn, and Woodchuck is no longer under Carla's control. It's never quite explained that well what happens to Woodchuck. I can't be sure whether it was explained in one of the SNES games, because the SNES game was a bit like the Dreamcast one. It did tell elements of the story that hadn't been told before. And there were a few other companions that travelled with them, but I'm not going to reveal their fates. But if I say story-wise, this is definitely after the original TV series. It also looks like Wagner has healed up his... Wagner gets... The main villain you saw in this intro, Wagner, the male wizard, he actually gets quite badly chopped up in the TV series, but still survives. And it looks like his face, from the slight scar on the centre, looks like it's healed up from what happens to him in the TV series. But basically the premise of the TV series is that they failed to awaken Cardice. Now, in this one, they have actually succeeded in awakening Cardice even without the sacrificing a high elf. So obviously they found a separate way around it. Originally in the TV series they need to sacrifice a high elf, so they have to try and sacrifice Delith, the elf Parn's companion / lover, and basically they fail. So you can see these are the lizard men. These are actually quite a tough little fight. You've been using up quite a few health potions. You have to basically, the best idea for a lot of these enemies is to hit them, then run away, and then hit them again. I must be the shield. There isn't much in the way of blocking mechanics. I know you can parry if you use inscriptions, but the blocking is not particularly good in this. It just seems to reduce damage. So. But you can see that even though killing them can be a bit of a chore, it is a good way to yield mithril and items from enemies. Enemies don't drop items that frequently, so you have to kill quite a large number of them. So I mean, this does remain fairly true to the lore of Lodoss, because Marmo is the dark island of sort of all the goblins and monsters, and basically in the TV series it's always shown as lightning skies, darkened skies, lots of rain, and that's exactly what you see in the game. But for someone who hasn't played it before, you might think, oh hey, the game looks really poorly lit. And this is one thing you need to understand: the lore of places like Marmo is that the island is meant to be basically covered in a permanent thunderstorm. But it's lore like that if you haven't played the TV series you won't pick up. I think the biggest giveaway, it's certainly sometime after the TV series, it may be after the second one, which I think was Chronicles of the Heroic Knight, is the fact Wart, in the opening episode, if you watch the very start, when he awakens Beld, when he says you can take your new name or you can pick your old name, etc. He says it's been a number of years. I think he says you've been dead for quite some time. So it implied a great number of years have passed. But what this game actually does is this actually basically tells a unique story that is basically a stopgap that fills up some of the and ties up some of the loose ends not seen in the TV series. And it's actually a really nice thing that it sort of ties together some of the issues that are sort of left open in the TV series. So it's in that respect, it's basically part of the lore itself, and it's actually a really good way to do a sort of anime manga game where you're telling a unique story within the whole lore and within the whole sort of series universe. Because traditionally a lot of anime games, and I'm looking at sort of Naruto titles and quite a few others, traditionally all they do is basically tell a particular arc within the manga, so it's just a retelling of a story that you already know how it's going to end, whereas this is a completely unique story, so you don't know how it's going to end because you haven't seen it before. Basically you recognise the characters but you don't know the story. You know the lore and you know the world, but you don't know the direct story. So that's a really nice way to do a game based on the sort of anime manga series, and I wish more games, even film tie-ins as well, I wish more would do stuff like that. I know a few in the past have done it where they've done like prequel games. I mean, you had Enter the Matrix, which was like a prequel, and I think one of the X-Men games is a prequel to one of the films, but often they tend to be retellings of just the film or the TV series itself, whereas it's much nicer when you do something more original where you don't know the outcome. So yes, this is the thing why you have to remain very close to the path. As you can see here, these dark elves are actually really troublesome, certainly with my inexperienced low armour and low weaponry. You do have to be very careful. In fact, knowing the story is quite key to a few sequences as well. And we're just going to explain that in a second when we get to the next bit. So this is the Dark Elf village. We're now going to get a quick cutscene between the Dark Elves. Now, if you've watched the TV series, you will recognise who the silver-haired Dark Elf is from the get-go. This blonde girl is a completely new character, I believe, to the series, but this Dark Elf one, she is proprietress, and she's actually a major character in the TV series. She's sort of the dark version of Deolith, but she's one of those characters that starts off bad and later turns sort of good, along with Ashran. But because of where the story order is, I'm not exactly sure whether they're supposed to be bad at this point or just sort of neutral. But as you can see there, they're having a bit of discussion over the current Dark Elf leader who they don't approve of. Now, this is a key bit. You're about to see a very interesting cutscene, and the first time round, I'm going to deliberately choose the wrong options as if you're an inexperienced player. But before I do that, I'm just going to nip back to the Goblin Fort and do some quick forging. And to talk to Wart as well, because he actually, if you jump back now, yeah, he's talking to Anvar. You can get a sort of bonus item and some equipment. He actually makes a mistake though. He says it's an honour to help one of the 6 legendary heroes. He's actually working with 2 of the legendary heroes, Wart and Beld. But I think Anvar doesn't realise Beld is the other legendary hero. But I could be wrong. He could be talking about Wart, or he could know Bayfar, and that's a mistranslation in the text. So that's basically unlocking a mechanic within the game so you can grab the book. What can I do for you? So I'm just going to quickly upgrade one of my weapons again.
What type of weapon shall I forge? Yeah, alright. You need to be looking for a magic spell to be forged into the weapon. You cannot use that. A mighty spell. A mighty spell.
But yeah, although I've just unlocked that feature, I can't actually use it at this present point in time. There we have Wart. So Parn was last seen in the Forest of Darkness. I believe he is looking for his companion, the High Elf Deolith. Although I think that's a bit cheeky because we haven't actually encountered the Forest of Dark. That you're supposed to speak to Priatrus. I think coming back at this point, the dialogue is technically ahead of you story-wise, but because I was a bit cheeky, I went back just so we could grab the insignia book at this point. I should point out I've slightly cut down the saving times just to skip through them a little bit faster. So I'm now going to show you what happens if you make the wrong decisions, and you can do this quite easily if you not aware of the lore of Lodoss. So who are you? No, lower your weapons. So my questions will go in this place. Now we'll go with my name is Bill and I'm a great warrior. You look like a barbarian to me. Tell me, barbarian, what brings you to our village? Now, this is where you can go very, very wrong. I'm looking for a knight called Parn. Parn, why are you looking for him? Answer me. Now, this is the point where you're supposed to know that Parn is their enemy and you shouldn't be asking questions. So, Parn is my mortal enemy. We're not going to do it. The Wizard Wart sent me to find him. I wish to help him. Parn is our sworn enemy, the Dark Earth. You've come to the wrong place, barbarian. Prepare to die. And now you're going to die instantly. Watch what these guys do to you. As you can see there, the wrong choice is instant death in this game. So you do have to be very particular with your saving. Now, if you'd spent hours hardening your character, you might be able to kill them in that fight, but it just shows you that if you don't understand the lore of the game and the world, which Western players wouldn't have done, it's easy to make some rather nasty mistakes. And this game does punish you in a few places. My name is Beld, I'm a great warrior. This time I'm going to basically say, I think it was a bottom action. I will go away to say the goddess Cardice. She sort of laughs at you and more barbecue. And off they go. But as you see there, if you make the wrong choices in some of the conversations, things can end badly for you very, very quickly. Now, one thing I will say about this game is that it is very darkly lit. I know the island of Marmo is supposed to be darkly lit, but in the houses and stuff there is occasionally an element of it being a bit too dark. In fact, they'd even turned up the internal brightness to the max on the game. So the game actually has a gamma settings for this, and I think actually the gamma for this game is not particularly well done. I know the island's supposed to be dark, as I mentioned earlier, but it can be a bit troublesome at times. Even the cutscenes, like the opening intros, are a tad too dark, and you really have to turn up the gamma a bit in order to see all the detail in them. So this is me exploring the Dark Elf village for a bit. It's actually been a while since I played this. I originally played quite a way through into it, but with this replay, replaying, so apologies if I look a bit aimlessly wandering around in this section. I was just getting familiar with the Dark Elf village, but you remember they spoke about an abandoned house, as we'll be going in there in a second. And there is indeed a ghost in there waiting for you. So ever since the news that Wagner intends to resuscitate Cardice, the Darker curating Marmo. So Wagner is one of the main villains, as I mentioned earlier, who was seen in the cutscene at the very start of this video. He was the male wizard. And again, he's one character, if you'd seen the original TV series, you would recognise him instantly. So basically they're all telling us their leader has been acting very strangely of late. So there's another inscription. So we've actually got 2 intelligence up, MP up, which is great if I wanted to be a magic unit user. Although magic, this game, I have to admit, you can't really diverge. So this is the house where the ghost was. I'm just taking in this some nice items here. But just saying, magic is not really a priority in this game. There are a few spells and you learn them over time, but you can't. This game isn't as diverse as something as, like, say, Diablo or Baldur's Gate. You can't play as a sorcerer from the get-go. You have to pick up weapons to begin with. The game is primarily more sword combat focused than magic combat focused, and the spells are more sort of unlockables as you progress through the game. It's not like you can learn spells just by using them. So in that sense, you are restricted with how you actually play as Beld. You can't be a sorcerer. You have to be sort of more a swordsman. I mean, once you've unlocked a lot of spells, you might be able to play a bit more magic, but primarily it does feel a bit more combat focused as a swordsman overall. So notice there's lots of like houses up on the top of like trees that you can't enter, but this last house is where we will find where Beatrice has run off to, and she will then allow us to access the pyramid. Damn. Roussel is the Dark Elf leader. I think he's exclusive for this game. I don't believe he was in any of the other types of mangas or TV series, but I could be wrong. Although I think calling her a Dark Shaman is incorrect. It should be Dark Elf. I think calling Beatrice Dark Elf... I mean, she's not really a shaman. She's more a warrior. A warrior. Yeah, now here's the point. A human, you look strangely familiar. My name is Beld, I do not know you. Well, the funny thing is she said, my name is Beld, I do not know you. She'd go, wait, Beld, it can't be possible. But of course that's the one thing. Because you're supposed to have renamed your character and not called him Beld. If you call him Beld, there's a slight few flaws with how the story goes. Yep, my name is Beatrice and I'm a Dark Elf and follow the Black Commander Ashran. Does yourself, she's not a fan of Parn. It sounds like you have problems. Perhaps I can help. Yes, of course I want to help, because it's the only way I'm going to advance the story. I do like these games that say, do you want to help? And basically it's a no-choice option of if you don't help, the character will just sit and wander around. If you do help, you have to do so in order to progress the story. It's slightly annoying, a traditional flaw of some RPGs where, unless you've got a sort of open branching path where you can choose to help characters or help other people, you always end up with this... very linear approach. I mean, the other one was the sort of classic where they describe as the heavenly saint or the demonic demon choice, where basically you end up with only two choices, where one is like save everyone, the other sort of rule the world as a dictator. And I do hate a lot of those choices. Baldur's Gate was very guilty of that, where you basically get a really good choice, you get a really bad choice. I remember one was like the well with the druids, where one you had to help cleanse the well was the good choice, and the bad choice was poison the well and kill all the druids. And it's like, yeah, there's nothing quite in between. Mass Effect is a bit guilty of that as well, with the sort of choices. This doesn't... I think there are one or two choices in this, but as you saw there with the sort of when you're talking to the Dark Elves, but not a huge amount. You can, however, affect the ending, but primarily that's based on whether you start asking about your past with various characters, and also whether you let the other characters die. At certain points in the game you need to get that you'll have to fight alongside the other characters, including Beatrice, who you saw there, and basically you can let them get killed, and if they get killed it will start to affect the ending. Of course, as I know they're all canon characters, I certainly won't be letting them die, but you do have to be quite careful with a few of the characters. It can be quite hard to keep some of them alive. You can see here we're venturing into this ghost-filled part of the pyramid. We've got to chop up all the enemies. The combat is very basic, but it's still sort of solid, good fun. If you play Diablo, you know exactly what you're expecting. It is basically mob fighting. So that's actually up to the next floor of the pyramid, so I can't actually go in there, that door just yet. So this is the blue demon Beatrice was talking about that I've got to defeat. And I see Ash does quite a bit of damage, but he's already down fairly swiftly. Along with his little sort of shady devil things. And you see there's another inscription. There's actually some more magic in here as well, which I'll be grabbing in a second. As with Diablo and those type of games, it's always a good idea to fully explore the location you're at before you're leaving it, because otherwise you will miss things like spells, and you will miss some really good items, and you will miss a bit of mithril as well. And of course defeating enemies gives you level ups as well. You see there, just got another level up. Some hacking my way through the rest of these remaining enemies, just going to heal up, smash those boxes. And there's some. It's actually really good. I mean, probably as Diablo clones go, this is one of the best. And considering this was made in sort of 99-2000, this is a really superb game that should have done far better than what it ended up doing. I mean, it's still very much not widely known, and you can still pick it up for about 10-15 quid. Second hand on the Dreamcast market. Even new copies don't go for that much. This really is basically a hidden gem. It does not sell for a lot of money. Although that might be partly due to the fact that it probably got a lot more copies than some other games. As you can see here, this is where I use up the magic spells we've got, and this was actually the Book of Wool. That gives me a wool spell. So basically I can now select, where the recall spell is, I can now select it if I bring that menu up. And the wind, oh no, a wind spell as well. So they're Tornado Tower and Recall. So that's the blue demon defeated and this area cleared out. So now we can go talk to Beatrice again, who has bizarrely moved from where she was originally. Now I'll probably do, I think, probably another part to this where we sort of look at a bit further into the game. But as you can see, they really hope people are getting a feel for this game. And what you see, it is a very good Diablo clone, and it's certainly worth exploring because it's certainly worth picking up if you like the genre, and it's just a really good RPG as well. And the Dreamcast itself didn't actually have that many good RPGs. I mean, traditionally people call out Grandia 2 and Skies of Arcadia, but Grandia 2 historically was slightly weaker than the first Grandia, and Skies of Arcadia is a brilliant game. Admittedly, it did get ported to GameCube with a few extras, but the GameCube version also had some really badly cut down music, and I'm not a big fan of the GameCube version as a result. So there's Beatrice. Warriors, after all, Bailed, you've chosen yourself worthy of my trust. So she's now going to unlock the rest of this pyramid for you. But like I said, I think in terms of RPGs, you've got Grandia 2, you've got Skies of Arcadia, and then you'll probably find the third best RPG on this is probably, I would say, Record of Lodoss War. I think this is probably the third best RPG game on the Dreamcast. There's not a huge selection of them, but this is definitely one of the top three. I'm tempted to even argue it's a tad better than Grandia 2. Grandia 2, having played Grandia 1, anyone I know that's played Grandia 1 fully through will always tell you Grandia 2 was a bit of a disappointment. The story kind of started off quite well, and then it sort of wraps up really quickly, and it was a lot shorter, and it felt like Grandia 2 was a little bit rushed towards the end. He didn't quite finish off parts of the story that well, certainly with Ryuda's brother and things like that. So I think this is certainly one of the top three RPGs. In fact, if you've got a Dreamcast and you like RPGs, you should own all three of these games as I just mentioned. They are all slightly different genre-wise, so some people may not. If you don't like Diablo, you're probably not going to like this, but you never know. It's always worth giving it a try, as it does feel a bit more fluidic than Diablo. This controls a bit better. Diablo is always very rigid with its mouse sort of point and click, because originally the original Diablo was actually intended as a turn-based game, and then they turned it into a semi-real-time game. I know they always said they made it real-time, but it was still very much felt like a bit turn-based. So I'm heading back to the Goblin Fort now. This is sort of power up and rest, and I'm going to wrap up the video here, but I will just quickly, so you see there's the village of the Dark Elves walk, and all I have to do now is smash that sort of skull thing, and then I can walk to the village of the Dark Elves.
What type of weapon? Yeah, all right.
As you see there, we got the Dark Elf blade, and you can then break it down, and of course then you can transform it into that item as well. And of course, if you want to, you can also make new items, but what you basically want to do in Lodoss is basically stick with one sword and just keep transforming it and reforging it so it gets more and more powerful.
What type of weapon shall I forge? You need to be looking for a magic spell.
Right, now the Firebolt one is the secondary inscriptions that basically are one-time only engraved. You can engrave them. You can't engrave any other of that type, but basically once engraved, it's permanently on the weapon till you unengrave it, I believe.
A mighty spell.
But as you see there, as the game progresses, you do get a lot more magic, but at the start, you have no magic whatsoever.
You need to be looking for a magic spell. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to wrap up here from my commentary at least. Basically what I'm going to do is head into the dungeon and deal with one of the monsters the goblins are asking help with. You'll see me have a quick shot at the second one, but the second one is far tricky. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I do advise you to sort of stay tuned. We'll probably do another part. We are going to do a bit on the blog about the whole sort of Lodoss game as well, because it is one of those series that so few people have spoken about, that if you watch the TV series and play the game, it completely changes your perception on the game. I think many people, you get all these, when you first play it, lots of strange names and characters, and if you've not watched the TV series, it doesn't explain it very well at all. And the game is slightly guilty of not actually explaining it, although the game itself is quite self-contained, so if you haven't watched the series at all, you can still play the game perfectly. It's just that you don't understand some of the lore and the background of a few of the characters. Then I'm going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And stay tuned to the Randomised Gaming channel for more gaming videos. And please do like our content, and please do subscribe if you enjoy it. I mean, if you want to watch unemulated retro gaming channels, we will do some more modern gaming at some point. But please do subscribe and like to our channel. I'm Random Gamer Riven, signing out.